never keep money. This was the first lesson Elias heard from his grandfather. He did not understand it then, and for many years he thought it was wrong. In a quiet farming village where dust settled slowly and days passed without hurry, there lived an old man people whispered about. They said he was lazy. They said he wasted his life dreaming. He spent most days sitting beneath a wide mango tree, resting on a worn wooden chair, staring into the distance as if tomorrow might arrive on its own. The old man's name was Mateo. He spoke often, but his words rarely became actions. One day, he said he would open a small shop. Another day, he promised he would buy land and raise cattle. He spoke of money that would come without sweat, of comfort that would appear without effort. People laughed at first, then they stopped laughing. Over time, they only looked at him with quiet pity. His wife, Rosa, worked every day. She carried water, cooked beans, washed clothes, and watched the seasons change while her husband waited for life to change on its own. Sometimes she would sigh and say softly, "Life does not live on ideas. Life lives on work." Mateo would shrug and answer, "Someday I will find a better way." Years passed. The soil grew harder. Work became scarce. One evening, their grandson, Tomas, thin and barefoot, stood beside the table and asked in a small voice, "Grandpa, is there bread tonight?" Rosa opened the cupboard. It was empty. Mateo felt his chest tighten. Dreams could not be eaten. Plans could not fill a hungry stomach. That night, sleep never came. The weight of his choices pressed down on him harder than the dark. At sunrise, with shame heavy in his heart, Mateo walked to the fields to ask for work. He became a day laborer, bending his back under the burning sun. The soil was cruel. His hands cracked and bled. Sweat burned his eyes. Each step felt heavier than the last. In the middle of the field, he whispered to himself, "This feels like a chain." Every night, he returned home, silent and exhausted. Rosa placed simple meals on the table, usually beans and a piece of flatbread, never more. Tomas would hug him and ask, "What did they give you today, Grandpa?" Mateo would look at the few bills in his hand and reply, "It is small, but it is something." Yet the money never stayed. Illness took it, food took it, repairs took it. A few coins remained, then disappeared. Week after week, the same cycle repeated. One afternoon, at the village store, Mateo heard men speaking with confidence. "The secret is saving," one said. "If you save, you are safe." Those words followed him home. That night, Mateo found a large glass jar and hid it beneath the bed. Each week, after buying only what was needed, he dropped coins inside. The sound made him smile. It sounded like hope. One day, Tomas discovered the jar. "What is this, Grandpa?" Mateo smiled with pride and said, "This is our tomorrow." Saving was painful. Mateo refused new shoes even when his old ones broke. Meals grew smaller. Plates were never full. Rosa finally spoke through tired tears. "What good is saving if we stay hungry?" Mateo did not look up. "Someday you will understand." Months passed. The jar filled. One morning they went to the market. Mateo placed the money on the table and said, "I want several sacks of corn." The seller counted slowly, then shook his head. "Prices have risen," he said. "This buys much less now." Mateo froze. "Money loses value," the seller added calmly. The jar felt heavier on the walk home. That night, Mateo poured the money onto the table and counted again and again. It never grew. Tomas asked quietly. Then what is the use of saving, Grandpa? Mateo had no answer. The days felt darker. His body weakened. Food was not enough. Hope felt far away. One quiet morning, Mateo sat on the porch, watching neighbors pass by. One carried eggs, another carried bottles of milk. They walked without fear. Then Mateo remembered something Tomas had once said while watching birds in the yard. What if we raise chickens? This time, Mateo listened. He took the remaining money and bought a few thin chickens. When he released them, Tomas laughed and ran after them. We have our own egg place now, the boy said. At first, they found only 1 or 2 eggs a day. They ate some and sold some. With the money, they bought another chicken. Mateo began writing everything in a small notebook. Each egg mattered. Soon, the yard was full of sound and life. Neighbors came to buy eggs. For the first time, the work felt good. One afternoon, Mateo held an egg in his hand and said softly, "This is worth more than money, sitting still. It feeds us. It grows." Tomas hugged him and said, "You are not lazy anymore." Mateo smiled with tears in his eyes. "No, my child, I finally learned." That evening, Mateo showed Tomas the notebook. He explained how each small effort added up, how something that grows can protect you better than something that only waits. He said, "Do not rush to collect, learn to build." He asked Tomas to choose one small thing in his own life that could grow with care. Not money, not dreams alone. Something alive with effort. Something that returns more than it takes. The jar stayed forgotten under the bed. When people spoke of saving money, Mateo pointed to the chickens and said, "Holding money is like holding water. Make it work, even if you start small. Holding money is like holding water. It always slips away." If this story touched you, like, share, and subscribe for more quiet lessons that grow with you.